Have you ever noticed how easily people get under your skin? A passive-aggressive remark? A broken promise? A rude stare from someone who doesn't even know you? You didn't ask for the fight, but suddenly your peace is gone. Again, here's the hard truth. If anyone can trigger you, they own you. And you're giving away control every single time you react. Stoicism doesn't teach you to suppress emotion. It teaches you to master it, to build such strong inner discipline that nothing external can shake you. Not rejection, not disrespect, not chaos. In this video, you'll learn 7 clear, no-fluff steps to build emotional resilience, the kind that makes you mentally unshakable. You'll stop reacting to drama, you'll stop needing validation, and most importantly, you'll stop letting others control your energy. Because no man should live at the mercy of moods he doesn't command. You're not alone. Every strong man you've ever admired has walked this path. They train their minds to respond instead of react. So can you. So if you're tired of wasting your strength on people who don't deserve your attention, watch this till the end. These lessons, rooted in ancient Stoic wisdom, are your armor in a noisy, chaotic world. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to take their power back. Starting today. Stoicism begins when excuses end. Let's begin. 1. Train yourself to expect nothing and be surprised by peace. It often starts with something small. You hold the door open and no one says thank you. You help someone through a rough time and they disappear the moment they're fine. You stay loyal, present, steady, yet when it's your turn to be seen, no one seems to care. At first it stings, then it builds. And before you know it, that quiet bitterness starts to grow inside you. You replay the moment, trying to understand how they could act that way. You expected better, you deserved better. But did you? What if the pain didn't come from their behavior, but from the belief that they should have behaved differently, that they should have known, should have cared, should have acted the way you would have? That's where the suffering lives. Not in the action, but in the expectation that went unmet. Most men don't see it. They live with quiet disappointment, carrying a silent scorecard for how others should treat them. Every unchecked box becomes a new reason to feel disrespected. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Today I will meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty." Not because he was pessimistic, but because he refused to be surprised. He expected nothing, and in doing so, protected everything that mattered. His peace, his clarity, his self-command. He didn't let his emotional state depend on how others behaved. That wasn't their responsibility. It was his. When you drop your expectations of others, something shifts. You stop waiting for apologies. You stop needing recognition. You move through life with less weight, and paradoxically, you become more present. You start noticing the small, genuine things, the nod of respect, the silent act of support. You begin to see peace not as something people owe you, but something you carry into every room. A man once shared how he struggled with this exact pattern. Every time his brother ignored his texts or canceled plans, he felt like he didn't matter. It built a wall of resentment. Until one day, he did something different. He stopped expecting the call. He stopped waiting for the reply. He just chose to live by his own rhythm, and suddenly, the absence didn't sting anymore. Not because the brother changed, but because he did. That shift didn't make him colder. It made him freer. Expectation is often disguised as entitlement. We think we're asking for respect, but often we're demanding a reflection of ourselves and others. And that's never fair, to them or to us. Because everyone operates from their own wounds, their own history, their own limits. Expecting them to act like you do is like asking a tree to grow in the shape of your shadow. You'll wait forever. Instead, shift your mindset. Every time you catch yourself thinking they should have, pause. Ask yourself, why am I giving them that much power? Choose instead to act from principle. Be kind because you value kindness. Be loyal because it reflects who you are, not because you expect it back. Let others surprise you, but never let them destabilize you. Start with something small. Tomorrow morning, before stepping out the door, tell yourself, no one owes me anything today. Not a smile, not a thank you, not fairness. My job is to stay grounded in who I choose to be. That simple thought will begin to untangle years of silent disappointment. And soon you'll notice something powerful. Life becomes lighter when you stop demanding it to be fair. You won't be emotionless, you'll be untouchable. Not because you've closed your heart, but because you've opened your eyes. 2. Use every trigger as training for mastery. It happens faster than you think. Someone cuts you off mid-sentence, a coworker mocks your idea with a smirk, a stranger makes a comment you weren't supposed to hear, but you did. Suddenly, your chest tightens, the heat rises, you clench your jaw, your whole system prepares to fight, defend, or shut down. That sharp jolt inside you, that's the trigger. And most men spend years letting it win. Anger is rarely random. It follows a familiar script. You get hurt, then you react, you defend yourself, you try to restore pride, you try to make the other person see. But what if the real power isn't in pushing back, but in not moving at all? Not out of weakness, but out of control. Life will not stop giving you difficult people. You'll face disrespect, ignorance, interruption, and provocation. You can't fix the world, but you can reframe what these moments are. They're not attacks. They're exercises. They don't test your worth. They train your strength. The Stoics saw every trigger as a chance to practice mastery. Marcus Aurelius didn't view obstacles as enemies. He called them fuel. The fire turns all it touches into flame. A challenge wasn't a problem. It was a proving ground. Epictetus believed no man was free unless he ruled his reactions. That's the difference between someone who survives emotionally and someone who leads from within. There's a man I once met, a combat veteran who now runs leadership training. Calm, focused, deeply grounded. I asked him how he stays that way. He smiled and said, "Every time I'm tested, I thank life for giving me another rep." His discipline didn't come from avoiding conflict. It came from using it to sharpen his mind. He saw the trigger, and instead of reacting, he trained. The problem is, most men don't see these moments clearly. When they're disrespected, they take it personally. When they're provoked, they explode. When they're ignored, they stew. They think the world is attacking them, but really, the world is offering them the gym of emotional strength. They just haven't walked in. You're not weak for feeling something. That's human. But you're powerful when you choose what comes next. You don't have to react like you always have. You don't have to fire back, storm off, or spiral inward. You can pause, breathe, and shift the entire momentum of that moment. Not to control the other person, but to prove to yourself that you are the one in charge. That's the quiet power Stoicism builds. A force that doesn't need to bark or dominate, it just stands firm, unbothered. When someone tries to provoke you, let them see that their attempt didn't land. You didn't flinch. You didn't burn. You trained. From today, treat each trigger as a rep, a moment to build mental strength. When you feel your pulse spike, remind yourself this is training. If you remain calm, count it. Track your progress, not in silence, but in stillness. If you slip, that's okay. You don't lose the game, you learn where to tighten your grip. You won't get it perfect every time, but you'll grow more unshakable with every attempt. Emotional mastery isn't born in comfort, it's built in pressure. Pressure from people, from noise, from life not going your way. And when you choose to stay grounded in the middle of that storm, you walk the path of the Stoic, not in theory, but in practice. Next time you're tested, don't react. Train. Let them think they've got to you. Let them talk, while you silently grow stronger. 3. Interrupt your emotional reactions with a simple pause. You already know the feeling. A word hits you wrong. A glance feels like an insult. Your body tightens, your breath shortens, and something deep inside wants to act. Right now. Say something sharp. Walk away with force. Send the message, I don't let anyone treat me like this. But a few hours later, when the storm passes, you look back, not with pride, but with regret. You wish you had paused. You wish you had seen it for what it was. Not a war, just a wave. Not a threat, just a test. Reacting without pause is easy. It's automatic. That's what makes it dangerous. Because the reaction feels like control, when in truth, it's surrender. You handed over the wheel to the most primitive part of your mind, and for a few seconds or minutes, you stopped choosing. The Stoics didn't see that as a strength. They saw it as slavery. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. That power begins in the pause. The pause is small, but it changes everything. It's the space between trigger and action. The space where reason can speak before instinct takes over. Most men never use it. They live on the edge, always one step away from snapping, yelling, or quitting. But that kind of man is easy to control, easy to provoke. One word, one moment, and he's lost his center. That's not a strength. That's instability dressed up as intensity. Now imagine this. Someone throws a verbal punch at you. Your old pattern would be to fire back. But this time, you stop. You breathe. You feel the heat, but you let it pass like a wave. You watch it instead of becoming it. 3 seconds. That's all. And when you finally speak or choose not to, your words come from discipline, not damage. I've seen men change their lives with that pause. A man in his 50s, always hot-tempered, came to that realization after a quiet breakdown at work. His reactions were costing him respect. So he tried one thing, pausing before replying. Not a full minute, just one deep breath. He said at first, it felt like weakness, but over time it became his power. His voice lowered, his thoughts became clearer, and his decisions sharper. He didn't stop feeling things. He stopped letting feelings speak for him. We often think emotional strength means being unbothered. But the truth is, emotional strength is noticing everything and choosing the response that builds you, not breaks you. That's what the pause gives you, not perfection, just a gap wide enough for clarity to enter. And once clarity enters, chaos leaves. Epictetus said it clearly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Most people rush into the moment with emotion. The Stoic walks into it with awareness. One is a storm, the other a mountain. Here's what you can do starting now. Every time your body starts reacting, tight chest, clenched jaw, rising voice, don't suppress it. Observe it, name it, then breathe. Deep and steady. Count 3 seconds. In, hold, out. That pause is the difference between regret and respect, between escalation and elegance. You don't need a full strategy, just space. And that space begins with a pause. You are not your first reaction. You are your second thought. Build that second thought like a muscle. Every pause is a rep. Every time you stop yourself from exploding, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're reclaiming control. And control, not noise, is the mark of a man who leads himself. 4. Treat insults like background noise. A man who can't ignore an insult is a man still ruled by the opinions of others. You walk into a room, you offer a thought, and someone scoffs. You share your truth, and someone mocks your tone, your face, your past. It doesn't take much. Just one word, one smirk, one sentence spoken under someone's breath, and you're pulled out of yourself. You feel it immediately. The heat, the tension, the urge to prove, to push back, to defend your worth in the eyes of someone who doesn't even see you clearly. That's how the mind gets hijacked. Not by knives, but by noise. It feels personal, but it's not. It feels targeted, but it's not. Most of the time, what they said wasn't even about you. It was about them. Their bitterness, their noise, their chaos. But if you carry that insult like a truth, if you wear it like a label, you're the one who made it real. That's the trap. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. Epictetus said, if someone speaks ill of you, live in such a way that no one will believe it. But he also said, an insult doesn't harm you unless you accept it. In other words, you decide what gets inside. You decide what reaches your core. If a stranger throws mud at you and you don't wipe it off, that's your choice. The damage wasn't in the act, it was in your decision to carry it. So the question isn't whether people will insult you. They will. Some with subtle digs, others with blunt cruelty. The real question is whether you'll be the kind of man who reacts to every bark or the kind who walks through noise with silent strength. Because that's what insults are. Noise. Static. Barking dogs behind fences. Loud but harmless, unless you lean in. You know the pattern. You've lived it. A friend says something thoughtless in front of others. A coworker makes a backhanded comment about your past. A stranger questions your masculinity over something stupid, and something in you stirs. You want to strike back. You want to reclaim something they tried to take. But that reaction is a trade. You trade your peace for their weakness. You trade your clarity for their confusion. You let them pull you into a level you've already outgrown. You think your silence will look like submission, but real men know silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. You don't need to win the insult war. You win by staying outside of it. You win by walking through fire without catching flame. You win by becoming so solid inside that nothing shakes you from the outside. One man told me how he finally learned this. Years of reacting to every slight, every jab, every whisper. Until one day, after a heated exchange with a colleague, he asked himself, why do I keep making fools so powerful? That question burned through the old wiring in his head. From that moment on, he built a new habit. Every insult, imagined or real, became background noise, not worth a single heartbeat. So what do you do when someone crosses that line? When they dig into something raw? You breathe, you pause, you ground yourself. Then you remind your mind, this is noise, not true, not a threat, just noise. Let them speak, let them posture, let them show you who they are while you stand unmoved. That's your discipline, that's your dignity. That's emotional control, not written in theory, but lived in silence. In that silence, it's not the absence of response, it's the presence of power. 5. Walk away without needing to win. Sometimes the strongest move is the one where you say nothing. No explanation, no last word, just a calm decision to protect your energy. You've felt that tug before. When a conversation turns sharp, when your pride flares, when your mind starts crafting comebacks like weapons. You know you're right. You know they're twisting the truth. And yet every word that leaves your mouth pulls you further into a fight that leaves no one better. Only more drained, more bitter, less you. The urge to win is natural. You were raised to defend yourself, to prove your point, to never back down. Somewhere along the way, not responding started to look like weakness. So you argued harder, pushed louder, held the last word like a trophy, even when it meant sacrificing your peace. But you didn't win anything. You just stayed longer in a space that didn't deserve your presence. That's the cost of needing to win. You lose yourself trying to conquer someone else. You spend hours thinking about what you should have said. You replay the moment, dissect the tone, fantasize about the perfect comeback. All while they've already moved on. Stoicism breaks that pattern. It reminds you, victory isn't external, it's internal. You don't need their surrender to feel strong. You don't need their silence to feel seen. All you need is the discipline to walk away when it's time. Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize your mind is complicit in the provocation. That's not softness, that's clarity. True strength isn't reactive, it's selective. You choose your battles, you choose your silence. Not because you're afraid to speak, but because your peace costs more than being right. Imagine this. You're in the middle of a heated argument with someone who refuses to listen. They're twisting your words, raising their voice, trying to win a game you never wanted to play. You feel the heat rising, the need to respond, to correct them, to defend your character. But instead, you pause, you breathe. You realize this isn't your fight, it's their chaos, and you choose not to carry it. You stand, you say, we'll stop here, and you walk away. Not in anger, not in defeat, but in power. One man told me how this shift saved his marriage. He used to argue for hours, thinking if he could just say the right thing, she'd understand. But the more he explained, the more defensive she became. Until he tried something different. He started listening. He stopped needing to win. He walked away when things turned toxic, not to punish her, but to protect the space between them. Over time, the dynamic changed. Not because she changed first, but because he no longer fought battles with ego. This isn't about silence as avoidance. It's about silence as mastery. It's about walking away, not because you're lost, but because you've outgrown the need to prove. The man who always needs to win is still seeking validation, still tied to pride, still reactive. But the man who knows when to speak, when to stay, and when to leave, that man is free. Next time you find yourself in a battle of words, stop and ask, is this worth my clarity? Not every insult deserves a response. Not every conflict deserves your energy. Sometimes the most powerful statement is stillness. The most commanding move is distance. That's not a retreat, that's respect for yourself, for your time, for your peace. And when you begin to live by that standard, you'll notice something shift. Fewer fights, deeper calm, clearer mind. You won't feel the need to win anymore because you'll realize you've already won. You chose yourself, and no one gets to argue with that. 6. Reframe every offense as a reflection of the offender. Not every insult is about you. In fact, most of them aren't. But your mind takes it personally anyway. You hear the sharp tone, the dismissive comment, the sarcasm dressed as concern, and it lands in your chest like a punch. You start to question yourself. You wonder if you deserved it, or worse, if what they said is true. And slowly, the way they saw you becomes the way you begin to see yourself. That's how pain takes root, not in what was said, but in what you accepted. Now step back. What if that insult had nothing to do with you? What if it was just a mirror of someone else's chaos, their insecurity, their fear, their smallness disguised as control? The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever someone does wrong, it is because they think it's right. They act from their own understanding." And that's the point. Most people speak and act from where they are, not where you are. You are just standing in the way of their storm. You've seen it before. A colleague lashes out in a meeting not because you failed, but because they felt threatened. A family member brings up your past, not because it matters, but because they don't know how to manage their own guilt. You didn't cause it. You were just close enough to carry it. When you take offense, you make their pain your identity. When you reframe it, you leave it where it belongs. You stop absorbing what isn't yours. You stop letting their shadow darken your sense of self. And that's not detachment, that's clarity. This doesn't mean you excuse everything. Stoicism isn't passive. It doesn't teach you to accept disrespect. It teaches you to recognize its true source, so you can act from strength, not wounded pride. When someone offends you, ask, what must be going on inside them to act this way? Not in pity, but in perspective. That question separates your dignity from their damage. You might remember a moment, maybe recent, when someone crossed a line, said something that hit too deep, it left a mark, and part of you still carries it. Not because you believe it, but because you weren't given the tools to let it go. So here's the shift. Start by naming it. That was their projection, not my reality. Every time it resurfaces, repeat it. Out loud if you need to. This isn't weakness. It's mental discipline. It's how you unlearn the habit of taking things personally. One man told me how this changed the way he moved through life. After years of internalizing criticism, he started treating every offense like a rock someone threw from their own collapsing house. He stopped picking up the rocks. He stopped building walls with them. He walked on. Not bitter, not cold, just clear. That's what reframing does. It frees you from the emotional debt of other people's immaturity. So the next time someone speaks from a place of harshness, pause. Don't absorb it. Don't reply to it. Don't feed it with your energy. Just see it for what it is, a reflection, not a verdict. They showed you who they are. You don't need to respond. You just need to return to yourself. Because your worth isn't on trial. Your identity isn't up for debate. And no one's bad day should become your burden. Reframing isn't denial. It's choosing to protect your peace by refusing to rent space in your mind to other people's noise. That's Stoic wisdom in motion. That's self-respect made visible. That's how you stop being bothered, by remembering what's theirs and what's yours. 7. Anchor your peace to principles, not people. Peace built on people will always collapse. One shift in their mood, one unexpected silence, one broken promise, and the calm you worked so hard to build disappears. You feel centered until they act cold. You feel strong until they withhold praise. You think you're fine, but you're not really free. You're just temporarily approved of. And that's a dangerous way to live, tethered to winds you can't control. You've likely felt it. Days when your confidence soared because someone treated you well. Then it dropped, just as fast, because they didn't answer your call or look at you differently. Your emotional state bounced like a yo-yo in someone else's hand. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how smart or successful you are. You're still ruled by something outside of you. Stoicism offers a different foundation, one built on something unshakable, an inner principle. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or do, only what you do." That's the shift. Stop tying your peace to how others show up. Start tying it to how you choose to live. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and decide that your calm, your clarity, and your courage come from values you live by, not reactions you chase. You define your own rhythm. You act with integrity even when others don't. You stay kind even when kindness isn't returned. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because that's who you've chosen to be. One man told me he used to feel emotionally exhausted by people's approval. If someone praised him, he felt like he could breathe. If they didn't, he felt invisible. He lived on validation, but never felt solid, until he wrote down 3 words that would shape every day going forward. Calm, clear, consistent. Those became his code, his anchor. When people changed, he didn't. When energy shifted around him, he stayed grounded. His self-respect wasn't up for debate. That's what anchoring to principle does. It ends the cycle of emotional dependency. You stop needing others to be stable so you can feel okay. You start holding the line internally, even when everything around you is noisy, unpredictable, or disappointing. And that's not isolation. That's leadership. This doesn't mean cutting people off or closing your heart. It means refusing to let your inner weather be shaped by external storms. People will always fluctuate. One day supportive, the next distracted. One moment understanding, the next absorbed in their own issues. That's human. But your center doesn't need to be shaken every time they drift. What helps is choosing your personal ground rules. 3 values, 3 principles that define who you are under pressure. For some, it's discipline, respect, and stillness. For others, it's honesty, focus, and emotional control. You don't have to announce them, just live by them. Let them shape how you speak, how you walk away, how you return to yourself when the world pulls you out of balance. Next time you feel unsteady because someone disappointed you, take 1 breath and ask, did I act according to my principles? If yes, then nothing is lost. If no, then you know what to return to. That's how you stop being emotionally hijacked by the people around you. You stop letting their reactions dictate your reality. Peace isn't something you wait for others to give, it's something you build quietly and fiercely from within. And when it's built on principle, it doesn't collapse when people shift. It holds, because it was never theirs to begin with. It was yours all along. The world will not stop testing you. People will still disappoint. Words will still sting, moments will still come that try to shake your center. But what you've learned today is this. Peace is not found in avoiding chaos. It's built in how you respond to it. And no one else can build that for you. When you stop expecting, you stop suffering. When you treat your triggers as training, you grow stronger. When you insert a pause between emotion and action, you reclaim control. And when you anchor your calm to inner values instead of outside behavior, you finally become unshakable. This is what Stoic self-mastery looks like. Not cold, not distant, but present, alert, and in command. You don't suppress how you feel. You learn how to feel without being ruled by it. That takes daily work, quiet work, but it's the kind of work that transforms how you move through the world. Start small. Choose 1 practice from this video. Repeat it. Make it part of your emotional grounding. Whether it's observing your reactions in silence, walking away without needing to win, or simply reminding yourself that you owe no one a reaction, these moments will shape your strength. And remember, the more you live by discipline, the less others can disturb your peace. Your mindset becomes your shield. Your clarity becomes your calm. So practice daily. Catch yourself when you drift. Bring your awareness back. That's how mental strength is built. 1 quiet decision at a time. If any part of this message resonated with you, I invite you to share your story below. What have you overcome? What triggers are you learning to master? This space is for your voice, your growth, your strength. Stoicism begins alone, but it's practiced together. And today, you just took another step toward becoming emotionally unshakable.